So I'm Nim Tottenham. I'm a professor in the psychology department at Columbia University. And for many years now, we've been very invested in trying to better understand development in children who experienced disruptions in their caregiving history, whether that's been through international adoption or domestic adoption. And we're invested in this question because we recognize that this is a greatly underserved population. And we think there are a lot of important questions to answer that families want to know, that children want to know. And so we've been engaged in this research to better understand what are factors that are going to promote growth and thriving in children who've experienced early disruptions in care.
What drove you to begin your journey to be a psychologist, and then what kind of things did you experience that led you to realizing that adoption and foster care children are coming from such hard places, and what made you focus on that?
Mm-hmm. I think it's a lot of things that came together, both personally and professionally. I think one of the essential drivers was just my sort of interest in the role of early experiences in general, and sort of recognizing that as humans, we have this really long period of time that we're hanging around our parents. And that is a really kind of curious design for a species. It makes us unusual compared to other species, but it sort of shines this light on, there's got to be something important going on there in that investment in early care. And so being a neuroscientist at the same time, really interested in, what is the human brain expecting from its environment in order to learn everything that it needs to become an adult. So I think thinking about children's early experiences with their parents, and if those are disrupted, and sort of how later experiences come into play, if early experiences were not ideal, if they were adverse, how can later experiences really foster growth and promote really positive outcomes in kids has just always been of interest to me.
What do you actually meet with families? Do you know, how do you do your research is what my question basically is.
Mm-hmm. So we invite families who are interested to come in to our lab here, and we try and make it a really fun day for kids. We don't want it to feel like work for them. So we design a lot of computer games that are hopefully somewhat fun for kids, but also scientifically informative for us in tapping into areas of behavior that parents often have questions about. So it might involve things like impulse control, which we know takes a long time to develop in kids. Emotional reactivity, which can be influenced by things that happen early in our lives. And at the same time, we talk to parents to learn more about kids and their experiences. And we give kids lots of treats, and we give them money at the end of their participation. If they participate in a study that involves an MRI scan, they get a movie of their brain to take home, which I think is really cool too.
Wow.
So it's usually about a 3-hour visit, but we hope. And we hear from families that it's a fun day and a time to really think about your family in a way that you don't normally get to do in the hustle.
Right. Why do you feel that it's so important for this type of information, and your experiences with families is important for the masses or the community to know about? Like, you're going to speak twice at this conference. So why do you feel it's important for and the message that you're going to let everybody know at this conference?
It's a good question. I think that it can serve several roles to people, and different people get different things from the information. I think that sometimes it's helpful to get a sense of on average, if there are going to be behavioral concerns, where do they tend to be? And sort of get us, that average can be helpful in organizing behaviors for families. Sometimes when you're with your own kid, it's kind of hard to see a larger picture.
Yeah. Oh, the outside of the box.
Yeah. Than someone who's looking at hundreds of kids at once. So I think that can be very organizing in many ways. And at the same time, moving beyond those averages, I think we pay a lot of attention to the individual differences that we see across children. So one child is often very different from another child, and we want to understand what produces those differences. And if we can understand that, then maybe we can understand where do we want to place our efforts clinically or in terms of what families are doing to promote positive behaviors for children that might be struggling in certain domains.
Wow. Okay. All right. I love asking this one to anyone I interview, because I always feel like it gives me a sense of what you started off with, and what kind of things you promote with your families. I always ask about what kind of books that you like or videos that you like. Obviously you do neuroscience, so I'm not talking about the real hefty stuff that I'd read at Columbia, but do you ever recommend any books to families that you love to share with the community of what you like, or even videos of things out there?
It's a good question. I actually gave my favorite book to a family recently, and so I'm going to get the title wrong, but
I can look it up and I'll put it up there for you. Give me a guesstimation of what it might be.
It was a book that I think is called, it was specific to international adoption, but I thought that it was written by a parent who's also a clinician, and I thought that she did a very good job of capturing some of the behaviors that one might see in their children if they've experienced, for example, early institutional care, that aren't necessarily talked about so much outside of this population. And so it's called Parenting Your Internationally Adopted Child. I mean, to tell you the truth, I learn the most from talking to families and talking to parents and hearing what their individual experiences are. And so, I actually would ask you, for your expertise there. I find this book, because it's written by someone who's both a parent and a clinician, she's very good at sort of telling narratives and mixing that in with the science. You sort of get a sense of an arc of where a child's coming from and where she's seen them go. And that really helps paint a picture in my mind for, thinking about children as children and not just data points.
Right. The last two things is, one, what in general are you talking about? I mean, you get to talk twice. So what exact 3 times? Sorry. Oh man, my brain. Don't give out all your secrets, but what are you going to be telling everybody about 3 different times?
Yeah, that's a good question. It's a long time. I don't know if people want to hear me talk that long.
Hold on a minute. I got to write it tonight.
So my first session is going to be about kind of the principles of neuroscience that drive a lot of our questions. So there are certain things that I walk into a talk already thinking about in the back of my mind, and I want to use that first session to get everyone on the same page. So it's really talking about the interplay between experiences and biology, and thinking about behavioral development. I'll be talking a lot about the concept of sensitive periods in brain development, and also talking about the importance of later experiences in shaping these behaviors. So the first is kind of a primer of neuroscience principles. Then I'll be talking about, at the keynote, it'll be a broad overview of the types of things that we've been discovering over the past 2 decades or so on development of children who have experienced early international adoption, mostly children who experienced early institutional care. And then the third talk will be a deeper dive into some of that research. If people want to know more details of that broad overview work, the third talk will go into that, and it'll be more of a give and take so people can ask questions and we can go off track.
Is there anything, before I actually end the interview, is there anything you want to add? Is there anything you want to tell the community from yourself? I usually ask that just as an ending, just in case. Is there anything that you'd like to let the community know about what you do, or a message of some sort that's important? I
don't know how important this is to say, but I really feel it, which is that it's been such an honor to partner with this community and learn from families, and we're just so grateful for the time that families have given to the research, and we try and do everything we can to give back and make this research meaningful, and we hope that we can do that. And if not, we're happy to get feedback about how we can be doing that better.
Thank you very much for taking the time to speak with us, and have a wonderful time at the conference.
Thank you.